How NARCs tell on themselves, and I just remembered something a little while ago that I want to make a video about before I forget. Um, I did notice suspicious things over the years, but there was never any direct evidence of a crime that I knew was committed. So by that I mean that there was a lot of incriminating circumstantial evidence, but it wasn't anything strong enough for me to believe or assume the worst. And now that I know what I know, and I know the parents are involved, and I already knew they had issues, but last time I saw the ex-narc and his parents were possessed by some of the demons that were in the ex-narc trying to target me. So it made me think back to stories and things I had heard over the years from my ex-narcissist. And one thing he had mentioned several times, and also early on when I had first met him, is that when he was very young, they lived in a house or an apartment in Columbus, in the inner city. And it was kind of a creepy house. And down in the basement of that house was like a small coffin-sized block of cement. Like something had been cemented over. And he mentioned how it was like a child-sized cement block, as if somebody had poured cement over to bury or hide a small body. Now, I don't know why this would be mentioned to me. Maybe it was just an interesting story, and it was creepy, and that's why they had to move. But knowing what I know, and also things that I learned about them early on, it is not outside the realm of possibility that something very bad happened. It is not outside the realm of possibility that something bad happened to a child, and a child was possibly buried and covered in cement in the basement, and then they moved. Now, do not contact the police, okay? Don't contact the police on this, because I don't even know what house it would be, and maybe the authorities could find out, but this is just a thought in my mind, and I don't have direct evidence. It was framed to me as though they lived in a bad neighborhood, and this was just something really creepy he saw in the basement. And it was just another reason why they had to leave and get to a small town, in a nicer neighborhood. But what I know about the family and some of the things the family enjoys, just maybe something very bad happened and they had to flee. I've learned other things that they were possibly involved in, but I don't know for sure. So I have suspicions, but I do not know. They could have been direct admissions to me about the type of people that they were, what they had done, and what they would do again. So don't contact the authorities about this. I don't want any police showing up at someone's home. Even if they did something, it's far too late to do anything about it. And they're elderly, and they're probably not going to live very much longer. But I don't need the police showing up here. It could have just been something strange and they moved and someone else did it. But, you know, now I have my concerns after what I've learned and other things that they've possibly done more recently. As I said, I don't have direct evidence. I just have a bunch of very suspicious circumstances. And I know that God will judge and God will set things right. It could be that my ex-narc was involved in many crimes behind my back, possibly, you know, meddling in crime every day while he was coming home late, and I didn't see that. I just saw like laziness and not wanting to like do the dishes or pick up after himself or something like that. But it could have possibly been bad, very bad, and they do tell on themselves. But as I said, I do not know for sure, so nobody contact the police on this. It could have happened, it might not have. But God will set things right, and God will be the final judge who knows what has happened. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You meet a boy when you're 17, and shortly after he meets you, he tells you about this apartment he used to live in, and how there was just a concrete block, like someone had poured concrete in the basement, like the size of a child's skeleton. Like, why would you Why would you mention that? Unless you're trying to admit something. Unless you're trying to warn me of something. So I don't know. These narcissists are very strange. And I do think that there are rules they have to follow. He did warn me of what he was. Not exactly, but, you know, about being a vampire and needing permission to come in the door. So possibly some of these other stories and things I had heard were similar, where I have to be notified and warned of what type of people they are to know what to expect. But they're not. They might have tried to kill me using poisons, but so silly they didn't know the Bible said that I won't be harmed by the poison. Now, it affected me, but I'm alive. And now everything they try to do is quite childish. So if they get the kids to lie in court, whatever, I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to skip town, then they won't go to court. They'll only take the kids to court if I stay in the house and I don't leave, and I try to keep the children. Because they'll go in and out of mind control. But when you think about narcissists being possessed by demons, something like murder is not out of line. They would consider and they would murder if it was opportune and they were allowed. And there's another incident that happened more recently that I think may have been something to this effect as well. But nobody contact the police, because if it's not, I really don't need this drama in my life. It might have been. It might have been. But God will take care of it. So if they do get judged on earth, then that'd be like a mercy to them. Because God is going to judge a lot more harshly than the legal system would. So these are just warnings and suspicious things I've noticed. I don't want anyone contacting the authorities. That's not the point. These are just things to consider. If you're with a narcissist, have they said things or possibly admitted to things that could be high crimes or murder? Have they insinuated or possibly placed the blame for things that look like murder but said someone else did it? It could have been them. It could have. But maybe nothing happened at all. So that's also possible. But knowing the legal system and how it's corrupt, maybe they did. And then if they did go to court, they just get away with everything. And then my life would be for the worse. I would be targeted, and I would probably go to jail for making things up when it was actually true. Everything I say in these videos is true. I was told this. But that doesn't mean it happened. It could have, and it might not have.